What's going on, everybody? From Bottom Tier Collector, and I wasn't going to do this video, but I feel like I should because something huge has happened once again. A Scott Snyder directed event. Something huge happens with Lobo. Last time Scott Snyder kind of directed a DC event was back in 2020, I believe. DC's Dark Knight's Death Metal, and talking through with some Lobo fans on some deep cut lore. Lobo's cloning ability had been brought back to Lobo way back in the early 2000s when Lobo was cloned into Slobo for the Young Justice series. Then when he comes back as adult, somehow, some way, the cloning ability comes back, but that's never really talked about throughout comics until you get to Dark Knight's Death Metal, and it is something that was utilized for the first time in a long time, and it was huge, right? A huge moment for the character, Wonder Woman leading an army of Lobos in that Dark Knight's Death Metal. Was a very pivotal moment for the character. Here we arrive again, 2025's DC Knockout. I went through issue 1, and then I went through issue 2. I mistook that image for Lobo being on Bane's juice. I actually don't know what that is, and we'll get to that in a minute. And then I finished the round 3 of the tournament, Lobo versus Wonder Woman. Now, preface before I go into anything, I understand a villain is not going to win DC Knockout. I understand even somebody that's a chaotic neutral like a Lobo is not going to win DC Knockout. That's just the way of storytelling, right? We want the good guys to win. We don't want the villains to win, right? And when you think about just what would happen in a tournament to the death with the entire DC roster, if you don't have all the gimmicks put in place that were put into place in this event, if you just had just a survival of the fittest, I mean, you're going to be left with Superman, John Kent, Kara Zor-El, Power Girl, maybe Princess Diana, maybe Captain Atom, and maybe somebody that can bend reality, right? Maybe John Constantine somehow finagles his way to the finale with magic or something, and then possibly Shazam. But that would be it. I mean, and it would be boring. And pretty much, Superman or Kara, because Kara is technically stronger than Superman. She just doesn't have the ability to hone her power like Superman. That's kind of the difference there. It would come down to Kara Zor-El and Superman would probably win. But in DC Knockout, we have gimmicks in place. There's supposed to be there's like a finish line in the first round, and the first 32 contestants through the finish line make it to the next round. They fight Omega Parademons, and obviously the characters fight each other a little bit because you're talking bad guys versus good guys. There's going to be some contention there. People are fighting. It's not just about a race to the finish, right? And so that gets some oddball characters into the final 32. And then in round 2, you have the gimmicks in place where there's like 16 god tier power weapon things scattered around the arena or the area they're fighting in, and only 16 people. They being things like the God Killer Sword from the Deathstroke, not New 52, the Rebirth Deathstroke run, I believe. I believe it's Rebirth. It might be New 52, but I doubt it. The God Killer Sword from that story, each of the Lantern Rings, the Mother Box, etc., etc. Things of that nature are in place, and only 16 characters are allowed to grab those gimmicks. So that again is kind of put in place because it kind of levels the playing field for, say, like Harley Quinn is in this DC knockout tournament. Harley Quinn wouldn't even make it past round one if she fought anybody with superpowers, in my opinion. She can have the sledgehammer and all the funny, quirky lines. I'm not even trying to hate on Harley Quinn. We're just talking about power sets here. Harley Quinn just doesn't stand a chance, even with her big mallet. Or the hyena dogs, and just what's she gonna do to Superman, kind of thing. So it kind of levels the playing field, all these gimmicks in place, and then you get to round. I got to round 3 because I'm only here for Lobo. I might finish out. I'm gonna spoil stuff in this issue. I'm not gonna so much spoil some things for the main storyline, but Wonder Woman vs. Lobo. What I was trying to say, I'm gonna probably keep reading DC Knockout. I'm interested to see who wins, although my guess is Superman wins DC Knockout. But I'm saying that to spoil that Lobo doesn't come out of here alive. Now, how do they? This is what I have to get into. I both respect the writing here, the willingness to do what they did to take down Lobo, and I'm also saddened. This is a monumental, again, like I'm saying, something monumental happens to Lobo in a Scott Snyder directed event. Now, Joelle Jones, I've had a run in with her before. I can't remember what title it was. I want to say she handled Lobo in some story I thought was putrid. Freaking putrid. And here she is again. Now, probably this time at the behest of Scott Snyder and the direction of DC Knockout, she put this in the story. So I don't really want to crawl all over Joelle Jones for this. I would say it's more Scott Snyder's fault for this. But way back, I want to say 1990, somewhere around 1990 or 1992. 1992 sticks out, but I could be wrong. It might be earlier than that. DC came out with a 4-issue miniseries called Lobo's Back, and Lobo irritates heaven and hell so much that they decide we don't want him in the afterlife. We want to keep him alive forever, so we don't have to put up with his stupid nonsense in the afterlife. So they write out a contract that makes Lobo invincible. It is something that has been part of his canon forever. It's never been retconned until this issue. It both broke my heart and made me laugh, because how else are you going to beat Lobo? This page right here is where it all happens. There's God ripping up the contract, and Diana defeating Lobo. Now, I'm not going to go on some man-child fanboy rant. DC can do whatever they want to with Lobo. I have most of Lobo's history to love and enjoy. If they ever, quote, ruin the character, which they'll never ruin the character, it just won't be for me anymore. It'll be fine. I'll be okay. I'll live another day. But God destroyed that contract, something that's been integral to the character, something that helped. The fact that Lobo's immortal doesn't add to him being so obnoxious and absurd. How he became immortal is what's so stupid and funny and great about the character. God doesn't want to put up with him in the afterlife, and neither does Satan. So let's just make him immortal. Well, it's done. Now it serves the story, because how is Diana gonna defeat Lobo? She can't kill him, right? I even like the artist choosing to use the art style from Lobo's back. Like I knew the God from that miniseries was watching the fight, because in the middle of this, periodically throughout this fight in this issue, God is watching the Diana Lobo fight on TV. And Lobo keeps telling Diana, "What are you gonna do? Gut me, bleed me out? You can't kill me." And she finally defeats him, and there it is. Lobo's no longer immortal, and we're getting Lobo in a series in March. So how is a mortal Lobo going to go about? Now, Lobo was just as dangerous before he was immortal, because he had the healing factor and he has the cloning ability. So maybe we're gonna get to see cloning ability Lobo again. Maybe Lobo's gonna start to go back. Maybe they're gonna pull Lobo back to the 80s and 90s, and we're gonna get a more classic Lobo series in the future. I don't know where this is heading, but I just had to get this off my chest. This is a huge, monumental shift for the character. Something I personally I don't think should happen. I think Lobo is great for the company. I think Lobo is great for the universe. I think he's just a fantastic character, and making him mortal again just scares me. I don't want a Lobo permadeath. That would break my heart. I don't think they'll ever kill Lobo permanently, despite that being the gist in DC Knockout. You're dead forever if you lose in DC Knockout. But we all know comics gonna comic, and all these characters, they'll assemble the Dragon Balls and wish everybody back to life. We already know nobody's dead forever in this comic book. But now that we've touched on the Lobo stuff, I knew Diana was probably going to win and move on to the next round. And hats off to Scott Snyder and Joel Jones. That's literally the only way you can beat Lobo. It's by having God nullify that contract of his immortality. So who knows where Lobo's going to end up from here. They found a way to beat Lobo once and for all. So hats off for the creative storytelling. It is, as much as it sucks, and the way he was invincible is absurd. It's also an absurd, stupid way to kill Lobo. Just God destroying the contract. It's what makes the character great, in my opinion. But some things I think missed in DC Knockout. Where's Bane? Why is Bane not in a DC Knockout event? I thought the cover of DC Knockout 2, Lobo was on the Bane juice, but he's not. So I think Bane could have been a formidable foe in DC Knockout. We also don't get a lot of Captain Atom. What's Captain Atom doing? He could be a really dangerous adversary, competitor was more appropriate. In this DC Knockout, Power Girl gets a little bit of some time to shine in DC Knockout. Supergirl's barely in there, and you gotta think Superman, Power Girl, and Kara are going to be the three final standing, in my opinion. Now, obviously, Lex Luthor's in here. Lex Luthor, being so smart, is going to devise a way to make it to the end, and there's gonna be some kind of a plot thing that makes us go, and I'm sucked in. I'm invested. I want to see how Lex Luthor gets his way to the end. I am placing my bet. My prediction for DCKO, Lex Luthor is going to find a way to get to the end, and I think he might even win the tournament, but somehow Superman at the last second is going to foil it. Is how I think it's going to happen. And I think the gimmick, I will spoil this, the only weapon Superman brought were these hand wraps with like many suns from dead universes in the wraps. That's really cool. I mean, that's going to help Superman stay all powerful in this tournament. and he does something big in issue 2. He big moment for the character. I don't know how Superman fans are going to react to it. I don't really, the key moment for Superman hasn't been fleshed out yet. It happened, and now what happens next? Now that the moment happened for Superman as a character, um, I don't know how controversial that is. I'm not a huge Superman fan. I just know there are certain things about Superman you don't really want to change. A lot of old heads, especially, don't like their Superman changed. We'll just have to wait and see. I don't really want to spoil the big stuff for the story. It'd be interesting. Lex is supposed to fight the demon in one. I'm sure he's got like demon breath armor or something. But if Lex Luthor didn't have the armor and was just fighting demon one-on-one at a tournament, I mean, Etrigan wipes the floor with Lex Luthor. That's not even a fair fight. There's very few characters that can defeat Etrigan anyways. I mean, you're talking about a demon of the afterlife. So interesting to see how that fight turns out. My money's on Lex, of course, serving the story. Lex is an integral part of this tournament. He's not going to be defeated to Etrigan. So we'll just have to see. Before I get out of here, though, I did read the DC Marvel crossover. Lobo's not in the book at all. So a cover queen, as I call it. Lobo's just a cover queen on that DC Marvel crossover. I can't comment to you, Dope. For some reason, YouTube keeps saying there's an error every time I try to respond to your comment on my previous video. So, Dope, if you see this, all I have to say is, whenever I was reading the DC Marvel crossover issue, all I could think about is how you would cuss and throw up at the Harley Quinn Hulk crossover story. It's every bit as corny and childish and goofy as it sounds, a Harley Quinn and Hulk crossover. But if as long as you know what you're signing up for with a Harley Quinn and Hulk crossover story, it may be fun to read. I don't know, Dope. See for yourself if you feel like spending $8.99 for a Harley Quinn Hulk crossover story. Personally, I thought it was a cute crossover. There's some like Wolverine Lobo amalgamation issue, I think, out on shelves. I need to look for that. Maybe he won't be a cover queen this time on that issue. Maybe he'll have a short story, and we'll read for that. That's all I read today. Had to vent. Big, huge, pivotal moment for Lobo, removing his immortality. What does this mean for the character moving forward? Does it mean anything at all? Will they retcon it and give us his immortality back? I just love being able to say you can't kill Lobo because God and Satan doesn't even want him in the afterlife. It's just funny and absurd. So we'll see what this means for Lobo moving forward. Obviously, the filming for Supergirl has already wrapped up. I imagine they're in production phase right now, mixing and editing the so as of now in the movie, this stuff, Lobo not being immortal, is not going to affect the movie. We'll just have to see if the comic canon influences the movie canon at all. Moving forward, I managed to ramble for almost 20 minutes. I'm going to cut it here, guys. Next video up, I've got it right here somewhere, the 22 mailbox. That'll be next. The whatever 22 sent me, again, thank you 22 for sending me something in the mail. Thank you everybody for watching and coming back to the channel after some random uploads. Didn't even advertise, just decided to upload. And until next time, guys, peace.